Have you ever had an awful tournament experience? Well, I have. And this video is for those of you who want better and better tournament results. So this is a follow-up to a video that we had done previously where we were speaking about some of the best acceptable practices for tournaments to have, what you should look for in a tournament. But today we're going to talk about what you should definitely be criticizing and what you should be avoiding in tournaments. So these are the warning signs for tournaments that honestly probably are not worth supporting, or they're only worth supporting with a caveat. So let's buckle on in, and this is the big deal. So what's the problem, guys? The reality is that a lot of tournaments for Warhammer 40,000 these days are $60, $100. I've seen tournaments running for $140 in the United States, and I've seen some of these in places in Europe as well. So, but too often the events, they're becoming sloppy, they're uncomfortable, they're having unfair rulings, and these things are not good value for the money. Now, I've been to many tournaments. I was at a tournament this past weekend, mind you. It was a major. I spent $100 on it, and it was an incredible value. It was fantastic. So I am not saying that it's not worth the money to go to a tournament. I am saying we need to be on the lookout for tournaments that are not worth the money, though. So that's what this video is all about. If you guys have experienced bad things at tournaments, bad practices, these things need to be called out, and I'm going to help you to identify some of the things that you should be a little bit concerned about. So here's the practices that we should no longer be accepting as a community, because as Warhammer 40,000 is professionalizing and they're charging professional prices for entry to these tournaments, we should expect a professional product. So the number one thing that we got to be looking out for, guys, is poor venues. We're talking no air conditioning or heating if you're in a cold area. I've been to places where there was bad lighting, or even there was unsafe locations. I've been to tournaments where I've spent $60 to attend, and there was some exposed wiring at the place. Like, that was not okay. That was just not okay. Um, there's sometimes you're even going to run into like cramped tables with no space for trays or any types of comfort. So like if you're playing a game and your butt is rubbing against the guy's butt who's on the table beside you, that's generally not okay. Now, I do understand from a TO's or a tournament organizer's perspective, sometimes event spaces are a little expensive and you have to get a little bit cramped. So I'm not saying that just because it's cramped, that is a deal breaker, but that is one of the things that we should be paying attention to, that super cramped venues, if you don't have enough space for all the players, you need to lower the amount of players who are going to register, or you need to get a bigger space. It's just generally the way it needs to be done. There needs to be a place for people to put their models. Players who are attending these tournaments, guys, I probably care less about my models than you do. I promise you that. But I've still put thousands of dollars and dozens of hours into painting my armies. I don't want my models to be destroyed just because there's no space and someone accidentally knocks a table because they're just trying to squeeze through a gap. It's not okay. So tournament organizers need to be looking at providing ample room for the table setups. It's just the way it is. I was at a GT in South Carolina a couple months ago. It's called the Safeties Off. Shout out to those guys. I know there was some recent controversy with them, and they handled it like freaking champions. So mad respect to those guys. But at the tournament they had, it was a GT, and it was only 42 players were allowed to attend. And when I got to the location, I was like, this is kind of weird. Why not have a 50, 60 person GT? Well, when I saw the location, what we realized is, oh, it is too small for 50 people. So it was comfortable at 42 if we had added a couple extra tables. Nah, it would have been uncomfortable. We would not have been able to like actually put our models on the tables. We wouldn't have had any place to store our stuff. We would have been butt to butt, and that would have been irritating. So they made the right decision when they chose to just allow it to 40 or 42 people. So shout out to them. They did a great job with it. Dirty and low quality of venues. Guys, I am 35 years old. I have slept on a mattress where cockroaches were falling on the floor when I was in university. I have done the thing. I have couch surfed when I was homeless for a little while. I have done the things. I am not a prude, but I have been to tournaments where the location is just gross. And I actually paid for that tournament, and I went up to the TO and I was like, dude, I'm never attending your event again if you're gonna host it just in a dirty place again. It's not okay. It's not acceptable, right? Like, I am not a prude. I've lived in squalor. I've lived in filth, but I don't need to be doing that if I'm paying for the right to be there. And I do recognize that the venue is very, very price sensitive. So a lot of times, what'll happen is TOs, especially when they're getting started with new events, they have to really wheel and deal just to get the venue. So I do understand that these considerations are very price sensitive. But if you're having lower quality venues, man, you have to lower the price. It's just the nature of the beast. Okay. no basic amenities. This is a big one for me. No access to food or water during all day events. This was a really big problem at the World Team Championships, or the WTC. I think it was like 4 years ago. I mean, people were at an event that was blazing hot and there was no access to food or water. Now, they fixed that immediately. They got a lot of feedback, and to their credit, they fixed it immediately. So they started having like taco trucks that were delivering. They started having all sorts of ways to fix that, right? But I have been to tournaments where you have to drive 20 minutes to get to food, and that's a big issue. So if you're in a location where there is no easy access to people like walking across the street to a Chick-fil-A or whatever, then you need to have this sorted for your players. There has to be access to food, whether that means that you're catering, and if you're catering, that means you're wrapping the cost into the ticket, so the cost of the ticket is going up. Totally fine, because you're providing food at that point. If you're not providing food, well, you still need to provide access to food, and this is a big deal. If there's no access to food or drinks, that is kind of a deal breaker for me at this point. Expensive bottled water instead of basic provisions. There should be a water fountain, man. Like, are you going to charge $5 for a bottle of water? Okay, but you better have access to a free freaking water fountain at the same time. Like we just talked about the no food options catering, and this is a big one for me as well. No negotiated hotel rates for traveling players. If you're having a bigger event or an event that you're expecting people to be traveling into, you need to negotiate a hotel rate. This is not nearly as challenging as a lot of people might think it is. So most hotels have standard rates that they will give to people. So if you're expecting 60 people to come in, and you can negotiate 20% off at the hotel. There's lots of, and get a room block. These are things that are not particularly challenging. It might be very challenging to get an amazing rate, but at least there needs to be a negotiated rate. So this is something that is expected for tournaments that people are traveling to. Of course, if you're like a local RTT, this is a different story, and I'm not talking to you in this scenario because also you're probably not charging $100 to $120 if you're a local RTT as well. Organizational failures. Now, this is the really, really, really biggest one. So we're talking no clear player packs with rules cutoffs or terrain maps. If they don't tell you what the missions are, if they don't tell you what the maps are, if they don't tell you what the layouts are, that's a big red flag to me. Now, this also I recognize could be a feature of the tournament. But if you're charging premium prices and you're expecting people to travel for your event and you're not giving them the ability to plan for the events, that is a huge red flag. And I personally would never support something like that. If it's a local event and it's just kind of a feature, hey, it's all going to be random and madness, I understand. But once again, that's an event that's probably not charging these style prices. One of the things that people don't quite understand about this game sometimes is that the terrain layouts, the actual terrain pieces, because sometimes it might be you might have GW1 and GW1, but the terrain pieces make all the difference in the world, because sometimes you might be using some crappy little like tiny corner pieces that barely cover anything, and sometimes you might have these huge L ruins that mean that there's no line of sights. So players need to see what the terrain pieces look like so that they know what armies to bring. This dramatically influences list building. Last minute changes to rules or like the format of the tournament. This is a big deal, and it's generally a big no-no. There is a caveat to this. Occasionally tournaments, similar to the major I went to last weekend, will have a caveat in the player pack. If there is an expected balance status late within a week of the tournament, they may update to the new balance status late. This is something I can accept as long as it's posted in the player pack. And I actually generally support something like that. But the players need to have a heads up when they are registering to the tournament that this could happen. Poor round management, late starts, long delays. These are not okay. These are just not okay. You have to respect your players' time. Inconsistent rulings from judges and TOs. Now, I recognize there are a lot of rulings in tournaments. There are a lot of rules in Warhammer 40,000, and occasionally a TO might get something wrong. I do understand, and I sympathize with that. I have been head judge at several tournaments, and I recognize this. There is no person alive who knows literally every single rule 100%. But there needs to be a council of the judges, whatever, that will make sure that they arbitrate and guarantee that when there is something that's niche that comes up, they all will have the same ruling for the rest of the tournament ongoing. And then this is a huge one, and one that's been sweeping the internet, is no punishment for abusive players. I cannot tell you how many stories I have seen of players who have cheated on stream or whatever, and they've been given a lifetime ban, and next year they're at the exact same tournament even though they had a lifetime ban. Or it's just so frustrating, where someone is they're just an abusive player on the table, and they're told, hey, don't do that again, but they don't get a yellow card, they don't get any other issues. Tournament organizers need to be comfortable handing out actual punishments to players who tend to abuse the system. This is just the way it is. Now, I do want to take a quick moment, and I'm going to bring up a tournament that I'm fully supporting. They are not sponsoring this channel, but it is a tournament circuit that looks amazing to me, and I love the work that they are actually doing. This is the Tennessee Elite Open, and holy crap, are they making sure that all of these issues I'm talking about today are not an issue at all. They are really, really working hard at professionalizing Warhammer 40K, and I love what they're doing. So check out this quick trailer, and then we'll get right back to the video. They've got amazing venues. They've got actual prize support, rock star events. I can't wait to attend it myself. Like I said, they are not sponsoring. They are not paying for this. I just want to promote really great events, and the Tennessee Elite Open is something that I am so excited about. And there you have it. That's the Tennessee Elite Open. All right, so let's go right back into the video now because we got a little bit more that we need to talk about. So we just talked about the organizational failures. Now let's talk about lack of tournament essentials. This is a pretty big one, but it's one that's very easily solved. Tournaments need to be providing at least minimum amounts of essentials, whether that's going to be objective markers. I've been to tournaments where neither player had brought objective markers, and the tournament didn't have objective markers, and people had spent like $100 to be there. And what are you going to do? Play with quarters? That's disgusting, and that's just really unprofessional and really, really bad. So you do, if you're, especially when you're charging real prices, you need to make sure that you provide some essentials. I recognize not every single tournament is going to have chess clocks, but you need objective markers. Not every tournament is going to have dice trays, but you at least need space for dice to be rolled. Unmarked, unclear terrain layouts. No, the terrain layouts have to be clear. That is essential to the game. You cannot have unmarked or unclear terrain layouts. That's just, if you don't have like base plates for your ruins, you shouldn't host a tournament. You just shouldn't. And so players being forced to bring all of their own basics, this is one of those ones where it's like it really does depend on how much money the tournament is charging. But realistically, if you're hosting a professional event, you need to have at least some of these provided, whether that's going to be just objective markers. I would say a minimum objective markers, but it's really nice when you apply some of the other things. And ultimately, this all boils down to when we're talking about bad value for entry fees. There are $60 to $100 events that feel like garage games. There are $60 to $100 events that have felt like freaking royal treatment. I have been to some incredible events that have run so smoothly at even a lower price point than that. No transparency on how fees are spent. This is a pretty decent sized one for me. Now, if you are providing a super professional event and everything is great, people have no right, don't need to know at all where the money is going. But if you are trying to grow your event, let's say that you have to play an event where you have styrofoam terrain, well, and you will still charge these prices. If I were you, what I would do is I would put in the player pack, hey, listen, the proceeds that we are getting from this tournament is going to upgrade our terrain for next year. If you're saying something like that, me as a player who's paying to attend here, I can get behind it. I might be a little dissatisfied with the terrain, but if you tell me that my registration is going to upgrade the terrain for next year, I very often am just really happy to help support that cause because I want to grow 40K, and I'd be willing to bet that a lot of people are. So if you do have some substandard things in your tournament, just make sure to tell people how you're going to be using their registration to be able to pay for these things, and that's a big deal. Now, if you've got everything on point, then you don't need to tell anyone anything because your event is on point and you can just pocket the money because you deserve to get paid for the hard work that you're doing. And with that being said, I do want to recognize that a lot of these TOs get paid nothing for doing these events. So make sure to shake their hands and tell them when they are doing a good job. Ideally, I would love to see tournament organizers get well compensated for hosting these events. But it's got to be a good event. There we go. Then the last one we're going to talk about is disrespecting players' times. This is when you have no strict round timing or schedules. Hey, we tell you that you have to be here because the first round starts at 9 a.m. The round needs to start at 9 a.m. You can't wait till 9:30. People have schedules they got to stick to. No dice down. When you have no dice down and suddenly the last round, the second round of the day goes 30 minutes late, and that means that the last round can't start until 30 minutes later, you're disrespecting your players' time, and that is not okay. It causes rounds to drag late into the night, and this is a big problem. Poor communication between rounds. It's very easy just to let people know how long they have in between rounds, how long the break is. Make an announcement. It's a good thing. And then lastly, we don't like these sloppy and rushed awards ceremonies. People put a lot of time and effort into attending these events. You can recognize that. So watch out for tournaments that disrespect players' times. So these are my closing thoughts. If you're charging professional fees, you really got to deliver professional standards. As a community, we should no longer be accepting poor venues, no amenities, sloppy organization, especially when people are charging. And remember, this is all with the caveat of a professionally priced tournament. We're talking that $60 to $120-ish range. If you're a $10 RTT, we got it. You get what you pay for. No problems. So, guys, I want to know, what's the worst tournament experience you've ever had? I want you to share it in the comments so that TOs can read this and learn what needs to change. And I do want to give one final shout out to a lot of the amazing TOs out there who are putting on great events with very little recognition. So I do want to thank you. This video is not necessarily a criticism of you. It is a criticism of some of the low effort events that are going on. And really, it's an effort for us just to raise the standards for everybody. So with that, I hope you all have a very, very blessed day. Crump on. Bye-bye.